Good evening, everyone. My name is Daniela Sigia, Vice President of Textile Waste Diversion, and this is Giorgio. And today we're going to be talking about recent fatalities that have occurred in Canada around some models of used clothing bins. And the CBC reached out to one of my clients, the Canadian Community Support Foundation, wanting a statement on the issue, and they reached out to me, given that Textile Waste Diversion is the one who provides them the bins in the first place. So I trust the CBC about as much as I do the National Enquirer, so I felt it prudent to actually read the email that I sent to them in full to you, so in case they leave some bits out. Textile Waste Diversion supplies bins to CCSF, and although similar, we do not use the same exact bin model as other orgs that have experienced this unfortunate tragedy. However, as a precautionary measure, we too have decided to make some changes in relation to the design of bins as a result of recent incidents. I would like to stress that these types of bins have been in operation across the sector for many years, and these incidents were few and far between, but very recently, it seems the amount of people experiencing homelessness and extreme poverty that are trying to access these bins has increased. So the issue here is not the bins per se, but actually an increase in extreme poverty that is leading to an increase in individuals attempting to access these bins in an unsafe way. It is all well and good to redesign bins, and TWD is doing that as well, but it is a social responsibility to make clear that this is a symptom of increased poverty and homelessness, and legislators and media that are putting the focus on bins is a convenient distraction from the root cause of these fatalities, which is housing insecurity and extreme poverty that is not being adequately addressed by the levels of government responsible for ensuring adequate support is in place for Canada's most vulnerable. But to answer your question, we are currently retrofitting the bins we have in the field and transitioning to a different model on all new bins we build. Now, the reason that the media is loving this is actually because municipalities right now are all studying their own reclamation process, as we've seen in Markham. Now, in order for the municipality to come in and take control of the whole industry, they actually have to destroy the industry and then rebuild their own version of it, which means countless job losses. But what they do is, in terms of the press, they don't focus on that part like we see in Markham. They only focus on everything they collected. What they don't tell you is that the diversified sector was already collecting that anyway, and we're creating tons of jobs in the process and supporting lots of diverse charities. And now, when Markham comes in, they pick just a few charities that are all just, a few degrees of separation away from one major foreign-owned Goliath, and putting all that Goliath competition, much of it Canadian-owned, completely bankrupt, so that they can say, look how great we are, but they don't tell you the full scope of what they did. So what happens is, in order to make it easy to do that, you will often see the press attack the industry players that are already there. So in terms of the big flashy charities, there's not a lot for them to attack there because they're charities, they have a lot of PR, they got lobbyists, they can't, do so much on the attack. So then what ends up happening is when an organization like Diabetes, unfortunately, falls victim to a fatality in a bin or whatever, the media blows it up like crazy because they're trying to see, even Diabetes, because they're one of the most trusted brands in the industry. So when they can make Diabetes feel unsafe, that automatically makes everybody else feel unsafe. And that opens the door for them to come in, because what's happening now is the Goliaths used to deal through all of their charities as middlemen. Well, now they can go direct to the cities. So what do they need the charities for? Bang, let's get rid of them all. And then it's going to be the cities collecting with one big foreign-owned Goliath, and the entire diversified sector, which by the way is $1 billion industry worldwide, completely fails, so the government can have yet another monopoly. And the press really helps with this by inflaming, because let's face it, not all bins have the security feature, right? What this is a security feature that some bins have, but it's an expensive security feature the majority of people in the industry can't afford to install. So the vast majority of bins that are actually in the field don't have a security feature that causes this risk. It's very, very few that have been able to install this, and usually not in all their bins, usually just some bins they've managed to have this in. So it's a matter of a simple retrofit, a simple switch out of bins, and that's it. But the media uses blanket statements, and the cities and the municipalities will now start using blanket statements to make it sound like all of the bins have this issue, when actually it's a small few. But then what that's going to make them do is come in like a hero. Don't worry. We're going to wipe out all our bins and we're going to do it our way, which is probably going to be the exact kind of bin that I use that doesn't have a security feature, which was already in place, because that's what municipalities do, is they reinvent the wheel, except usually their wheels are flat and they don't run as well. They're not as efficient, because when you have a monopoly, you don't have competition, and without competition, there's no reason to innovate. So everything flatlines, and that's what we're seeing happen. And right now, not that these tragedies aren't horrible and we should do everything we can to prevent them, and every organization I know is right now has their entire crew out with screwdrivers and drills trying to undo these safety features. Everybody's doing the responsible thing because nobody wants this on their conscience. So this isn't something that municipalities need to even worry about, and the press shouldn't be blowing this up to make it look like all bins do this when it's just a tiny minuscule of them that do. So what's happening here is media aiding and enabling a government monopoly takeover. And I would be remiss not to mention that when the Conservatives were in power, this didn't happen because there was a huge lobby push towards it. And as long as Harper, that's what they used to say to me, well, as long as Harper's in power, we can't do anything. I used to hear that all the time. And then the day after Trudeau got elected, my phone started ringing off the hook from municipalities. And as you know, we even worked with some municipalities, and the private sector was doing this for 25 years and doing an amazing job. So let us just keep doing what we're good at. And how about those resources and energy that government officials are putting towards things that are destroying because they have no idea what they're doing, putting it to doing what they're elected to do, which is to provide resources for those that are homeless and food insecure, that are hungry, that are poor. Because it's all of a sudden. This didn't happen before. It was so rare before. And now all of a sudden, things are so bad for people, they're being pushed to this extreme. That's not the bin company's failure. That's legislative failure. That's the municipality people that are looking out for their careers instead of what the municipality needs, that are thinking about their bragging rights instead of constituents needing a place to live. It's misplaced priorities. That's what this is. It's misplaced priorities.